It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back from Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the Commander in front of us, and my quest out brew the Magic World. As always, that link is going to be down in the description for you below. As well as, I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider becoming a member of the channel where you have access to all videos early, as well as interact with the links down in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. Today, we are taking a look at Victor Valgavoth's Seneschal. This is a really interesting deck because it's a Orzhov enchantments deck, but it takes a look at the new Eerie mechanic. Eerie is kind of a continuation of Constellation, right? Adding on fully unlocking a room to just whenever an enchantment enters. And I think Victor does a really interesting job at Eerie. So the first time Eerie goes off each turn, we're going to surveil 2. The second time, everybody's going to pitch a card, and then on the third time, we're going to put a creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under our control. This is a very interesting stack, right? Top one, we surveil. Second time, everybody pitches. Third time, reanimation from anyone's graveyard. And I like that we kind of get paid off, right, for getting multiple enchantments in during our turn. And so that's kind of how we're going to build the deck. We're going to try to build a deck where we can get multiple enchantments in per turn, so we can take advantage of getting to that third option as much as possible. We're going to pair Victor up with a ton of other enchantment or constellation / Eerie abilities, so we're constantly proccing those triggers. We're going to talk about just caring about enchantments in general. That's what Victor wants to do, but we're going to make sure that's what it does. And then we have specific cards that are going to care specifically about one of each of Victor's abilities, basically allowing us to pay that off every time it goes off each turn. So we're going to start with Eerie and Constellation, right? The interesting thing to me is, well, there are some cards that effectively have Eerie / Constellation, but never got it printed on them, like a Johnny's Chosen. Whenever another enchantment comes in, make a 2/2 cat. And that's great. It's going to allow us to go wide, get tokens on board, right? Allow us to get value going. We have Baelmerk Leech from the new set. Whenever it happens, each opponent loses a life. This is a great way to just chip off some life loss, right? Over the course of the game, as we're putting these in. And ideally, as we'll talk about later in the video, try to even bounce the same enchantment and play it multiple times. Daxos the Return doesn't have Constellation, but it says whenever we cast an enchantment, we get an experience counter. And for 3 mana, we can put a spirit on the battlefield that's as big as the amount of experience counters we have. So it really pays us off for getting those enchantments in. Doomwake Giant, whenever it or another enchantment comes in, creatures our opponent's control get -1/-1 until end of turn. A great way to really just start one-side board wiping our opponents. Ghostly Dancer from the new set makes a spirit, 3/1 spirit with flying, which is a great ability. And then when it comes in, we can actually bring an enchantment back to our hand or unlock a locked door of a room you control. More often than not, we want to bring one from our graveyard back to our hand. Grim Guardian, taking that same style as Doomwake Giant, but just having each opponent lose a life. So very similar, right, to Baelmerk Leech, allowing us to get that 1 life loss on our opponents. Thought Render Lamia forces everybody to discard a card. And then that's as far as the main Constellation abilities go. But we have some other things that still have Constellation that we care about. We got Boon of the Spirit Realm. Whenever it or another enchantment comes in, you put a blessing counter on it, and it buffs our entire board for each blessing counter on Boon of the Spirit Realm. And then Undo Spirit Dancer can make a copy of an enchantment once per turn, which is pretty good when it comes in. I mean, this can be anything, right? It could be very useful. It could copy things like Boon. It could copy a lot of other things. And this happens every turn, meaning we're just getting consistent value time after time after time. But as much as these, ETB abilities are great, at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot of enchantments, which means cards that care about enchantments are going to become very beneficial to us. I've always liked Catilda, Darnheart Martyr, a star where stars the number of spirits or enchantments you control. We do have things like Ghostly Dancer that can make spirits, as well as Hollowed Haunting on the next page. But we also are going to have a lot of enchantments, so Catilda can get big. All That Glitters and Ethereal Armor can buff a creature for each enchantment we control, which is a great ability when you start to get them on creatures that are in the sky. Ghostly Prison, stopping our opponents from attacking us unless they pay something for each creature. Hollowed Haunting there that we referenced with Catilda. Anytime you cast an enchantment, you make a Spirit Cleric creature token where its power and toughness equal to the number of spirits you control, so you can get bigger and bigger spirits right as you're casting these enchantments. Michiko's on the front side gives you 2 turns of buffing a creature for each enchantment you control, and then flips to the backside as a 0/0 that gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So it kind of becomes one of these all that glitters ethereal armor style abilities, but on an enchantment creature, which could be really helpful as well. Secret Arcade and Dusty Parlor is the new kind of room for enchantment decks that people are talking about because it pairs so well with that Undo Spirit Dancer. But it says non-land permanents you control and permanent spells you control are enchantments to the other type. This basically just turns every other card in our deck into an enchantment, of course, other than lands, allowing us to get more Victor triggers. And then on the Parlor side, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, we get to start spreading counters out to our creatures. Sigil the Empty Throne, giving us 4/4 angels every time we cast an enchantment. And then Sphere of Safety, giving our opponents a big tax to attack us where X is the number of enchantments we control. Secret Arcade actually does have that combo with Undo Spirit Dancer, because Undo Spirit Dancer would then be an enchantment. It's going to see itself come in and allow it to make a bunch of copies of itself if you want it to, leading to a bunch of effects that way. One way to potentially pair that with the Baelmerk or the Grim Guardian to siphon our opponents out that way. But the last thing I want to kind of talk about is how we can pay off Victor's abilities, right? We obviously want to do this enchantment thing, but there's other ways to do this. We have something like Buried Alive, which can just go get 3 creature cards and put them in our graveyard. And then when we get up to Victor's 3rd Eerie ability, we can start getting them back. Remember, they don't come back in with finality counters, right? They come back in... They just come back in free. I mean, and that's important because then we can potentially reanimate them multiple times. Bloodchief Ascension makes a ton of sense here. Beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, you get to put a counter on it. And then whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, hand, deck, battlefield, if it has 3 or more counters on it, that player loses 2 and we gain 2. So when they're pitching those cards, if it's activated, everybody's going to lose 2. So that second proc of Victor will everyone lose 2 and we'll gain 6. Well, think about it. You wipe the board, people are taking Ascension triggers. There's a lot of way to get that to go off. But now we get into 2 or 3 enchantments that can actually just proc Victor multiple times in a turn. Conviction is a 2-mana enchantment that says you get to enchant a creature and give it a buff, but you could pay 1 and 1 white to bring it back to your hand. So for 3 mana, we can get a trigger and then bring it back to our hand to do it again. So if we have a bunch of mana, we can do this over and over again, triggering these Constellation procs and getting that going. Flickering Ward does it for just 2 mana, but gives a creature protection from a chosen color. That's pretty cool. Just again, put it in, bring it back, put it in, bring it back. Same thing for Mourning, but this time in black for 3 mana. So here's 3 enchantments that can give us multiple procs each turn, potentially allowing us to make sure Victor goes off all of the time. And then Waste Not, right, just makes sense. With Victor's second ability forcing everyone to pitch a card, Waste Not's going to allow us to get some value for it. If they discard a creature, we get a zombie. If they discard a land, we get double black. And if they discard a non-creature, non-land card, we draw cards. Here's just a way to get value every time Victor is forcing those discards on our opponents. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. I think this Victor deck has a good shot of being solid as it stands, but I think there's a lot of things that we can learn as we go forward. The first is, do we need more protection for Victor? Things like Kaya's Ghost Form and Timely Ward can help protect Victor and allow it to stick around for a little bit longer, making sure we can always get those abilities. Also, Ghost Form specifically can also, it can, of course, also target any other creature, protecting them if need be. But again, the point there is some little extra protection. And then something like Grasp of Fate for a little more removal. We do have removal in the deck, of course, Darksteel Mutation and things like that, but sometimes you want to know, do you need more removal? And if you do, there are other enchantment-based ways to get removal so that you keep getting those Constellation triggers running. But let's get into our playtests and see if we can map some of this out for us visually. Here, we're keeping a 2-mana with an Orzhov Signet, Daxos, Chains of Custody. We enchant a creature we control. When it comes in, we exile a target non-land permanent until it leaves the battlefield and gives that thing Ward 2. Great for something like Victor. Ghoulish Impetus is a fun one. You put it on a creature. That creature is Death Touch and Goaded. And then when the enchanted creature dies, we return Ghoulish Impetus back to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step and allows us to attach it to something else. And then Damn for a little bit of board wipe. So we got a good starting hand. I kind of like it. Get that sinkhole in down turn 1. I mean, it's got to come in tapped. That's about the best we could do. Turn 2 here, I think we'll play that. Or as I'm saying it. Drawing the Black Market connections there for some draw and some value. And then Moonblessed Cleric can actually go in, search our library for enchantment, reveal it, and put it on top. So a good way to potentially get some more value for us. I mean, I think the best option here is either the connections or the Moonblessed Cleric here on turn 3. Victor is an option as well, but I kind of want to, connections could get us an extra mana next turn, and keep us going that way. We do have 4 mana, right? So, if we play a 3 mana card, right, that's all we're playing. I mean, could also make sense to get Daxos down before it, but I'd kind of rather get it started, right? Get it going, get that value. So next turn here, at turn 4, we don't draw land. We get the option here. I think I'd rather just make the treasure and lose a life. Pardon me, just so that way we have the mana. Now we're at 5 mana, so we can make some other decisions about what we want to do here. But I kind of like the idea of just getting Victor down, leave up 2 mana, maybe make our opponents think that we have some ways to protect it. We do still have Damn to take out a single creature, but we really would rather use it as a board wipe. I think we're just safe to go another turn, stack up another mana, and try to get into a turn where we can get some more mana. This turn, I think I'll take the treasure and draw. Just see if we can hit into a land, and we don't. That's unfortunate, but that's okay. It was inevitable that we were going to hit some cards on our way to another land. But I think I would get Daxos down here, so if we could start getting the experience counters and get it going. And then with 3 mana, I've got a couple choices. I could Moonblessed Cleric to guarantee myself another enchantment. I could Chain of Custody to take something out. I could use the Ghoulish Impetus if somebody has a big creature on board at this point, right? There's a lot of options. I could Mourning onto Victor to get another trigger and get it going. But I think my choice would be down to the Impetus or the Chains of Custody. Let's just say for the purpose of this that somebody has a creature that we want to do with the Impetus. We're going to Surveil 2 on Victor. 2 lands. Okay. Well, that's good. That means we're going to get going here. I'll just leave them both on top. That means we can pay the 1 life to basically... Or we could play 3 life next turn to get a treasure and then another land, right? So we've got 1 experience now because of Daxos, and we've got that on somebody. So we come to the next turn, draw. We will pay the 3 life again to get another card and to get the treasure. So now we have that mana. That would have been, right, that would have been 2 treasures last turn to do that. So just 1 treasure now. Sitting at 4, 5, 6 mana. We have a good target for the chains. I like the chains. I don't even mind the Heliod to give all of our creatures vigilance either. Could always put the Mourning on something as well. I'm trying to think of what enchantment would be key in this spot. Having something like Mourning would make me want to go get something like Grim Guardian or Doomwake Giant, since we have the chance in the future to play multiple enchantments in a turn. I think that could do that. We could also just get something like Hallowed Haunting and start building our board, right? I think there's a lot of options of how we want to do it. My only thought of something like Grim Guardian is it's an enchantment, which is also going to get Daxos up. But I also like the idea of just hemorrhaging life as well. But if we're playing against some other creature decks, then I think Doomwake Giant makes more sense, right? To keep our opponent's creatures off the battlefield. So I think here is where I would look. If I'm playing against a bunch of creatures deck, I probably grab the Doomwake Giant here. If I'm playing against... If I'm not worried as much, maybe the Grim Guardian, maybe Hallowed Haunting. We'll say for the purposes of this one that we're doing, we'll just pick the Hallowed Haunting and put it on top just to kind of show that off. That was 3 mana. I've got 3 mana left. I think I will play the Mourning onto Victor. This will get us the Surveil 2, and the next card down is Sphere of Safety. That's a great one to have as well. And then we'll pick it back up with its ability, but that gives us another experience counter, meaning that we have some good options there. I guess now that I think about it, I should probably leave it on there. No reason to spend that treasure if we don't have to. Again, Victor being a 1/3 is really not that big of a deal. But hey, Daxos is starting to get those counters to grow, meaning that we can take advantage of some spirits in the future. Remember, this Ghoul Impetus will just come back in whenever that creature dies. So if that happens on somebody else's turn, it'll just come back in, and then we'll get another Surveil too. But we'll go to our next turn and draw. And then we know the next card is Sphere Safety, right? Do we want to draw it? I think I'm content to just make a treasure. 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, so we could Hallowed Haunting plus something else. Hallowed Haunting is going to scry us Surveil too. I apologize. I think I like keeping that Plains on top. That gets me another experience counter. Now my other option here would be to make a Spirit if we want to, or get something like Heliod down to get another trigger. That would get me the option to have everybody pitch a card. I think I'd kind of want to do that just to start hurting everybody just that little bit. Another experience counter, we're going to get that Spirit Cleric from Hallowed Haunting, and now everybody is forced to pitch a card with Victor. So on a future turn, we could potentially take more advantage of getting things out of people's graveyards. But we'll go one more turn. We know that Sphere of Safety is next because of our previous Surveil. I think I'm down to take at least the treasure. The question is, do I take the card or the Shapeshifter? The Shapeshifter would grow all my spirits, right? The card, we know it's Sphere of Safety, which would just help us dig a little bit further, right? What's my plan this turn? I mean, I have the option to just do Mourning a couple times. One. I can do it twice. Which will only be 2 triggers there. Or I could set up the Sphere of Safety. Yeah, we'll draw the card as well. Right now I'm looking at 2 times on the Mourning. Right, but we'll do the Sphere of Safety. Get another Spirit Cleric, Surveil the 2, Sigil and Anguished I'm making for a little bit of removal. Okay. I feel like we might be a little bit late on Sigil, but I like the idea of that. We got another Spirit Cleric. There, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I do have enough to do the Mourning once. So I think we'll do it. Again, put it down on Victor. That was the Surveil 2, so now everybody's going to pitch another card, right? And then go up to 6 now in the Spirits. So our Spirits, they're going to get big, and remember, they will pair well with these Spirit Clerics, right? And I think now it's just a matter of spending our mana on future turns to make this Mourning loop, right, go in our favor. We've got some removal here. We've got some removal here. We saw the Anguish making off the top. People aren't really not going to be able to attack us at the moment because of the Sphere of Safety. And the nice part is, even if they wipe the board right now, we still have 4 enchantments, meaning that Sphere of Safety is still going to be active. Heliod is a creature. Yeah, Heliod's a creature right now, but still, it is indestructible. But, you know, I mean, Sphere of Safety's got us locked down right now. I think we're at a good spot to stop there, because I think we're kind of showing that loop, you know, effectively. But let's get into another playtest. 3-lander with Catilda, Ethereal Armor, Elseed, and Michiko's. Elseed is a 1/1 for 1 with lifelink that we could sack it to give a creature protection from a color until the end of our turn. That's great to protect, you know, a lot of things in the grand scheme. We see Hallowed Haunting there, which is great. Again, we got to see the benefit of Hallowed Haunting last game. I guess turn 1 I could play Elseed, but I kind of rather wait, see if we can get some value from it, right? Feels odd here on turn 2 to not play anything, but I think we kind of want to wait and get some things on the board. Turn 3 here, we draw Ghostly Dancers, so another play that can care about things. I think we go what? Victor, because next turn we can, you know, Michiko's plus Elseed plus Ethereal Armor if we want to, or we can go Michiko's plus Elseed, you know, and leave the Elseed open. I think there's some great options here. On turn 4, we draw Feather of Flight, a way to draw a card and give a creature flying. I like the Elseed first. This is going to surveil us too. Animate Dead and Ghostly Prison. So Animate Dead can get creatures back from any graveyard, and then Ghostly Prison for that reduction. I think I like both on top right now. Both of them seem pretty solid. And then I think I'd go Michiko's, give Victor the buff, gonna get +2/+2 buff this turn, and have it attack, right? Might as well. We'll leave the 1 mana up from Ulsi just to protect it, just in case, keep it wide open that we don't have to worry about. We draw that enemy dead, so unfortunately no land, right? Because we've seen the next 2 cards, but I think that's okay. Michiko's goes off again. We'll choose Victor again. I kind of like the idea of Catilda, just so that way we have another attacker, especially in the air, with lifelink. So it's going to help gain us some life back. And then, do I want to take the chance to, not leave up All Seed for a turn to put this Ethereal Armor down? I feel bad not getting a Eerie trigger this turn, but I also don't want to put myself far out. We do know that the top card is Ghostly Prison, so we know we're not going to draw another land next turn, right? But I could always see what's next after Ghostly Prison, right? I think I'd take the threat here. Put the Ethereal Armor on Victor. That's going to get us Surveil 2. There we go. I kind of want that swamp a lot more. That is a 5/5/7/7 right now. With First Strike, take a big attack. Now Victor's a threat, of course, but Victor was going to be a threat no matter what. But Catilda being a 3/3 right now is not bad either. And then as soon as we can start getting some spirits down with Ghostly Dancers and Hollow Haunting, Catilda's going to get even bigger. So we got this nice synergy, right, started. Our next turn here, Michiko's Reign of Truth is going to flip over, but it actually does exile, right? It says exile it and then return it back. So that's going to automatically get us a Surveil trigger. Love Shelter by Ghosts, could give Victor protection and some ward too. So I really like that one. We'll put that one on top. We've got 5 mana. I mean, I think either Hollow Hunting or Ghostly Dancers makes sense, right? Both of them give us some pretty great value. We could even, since we know that Shelter by Ghosts is at the top, we could even just put the feather on this Michiko backside. You put it in the air, right? And draw a card and do that. I think it's kind of awkward with 5 mana, but I think we'll just get Hallowed Haunting down, get it set up for next turn, leave All Seed up to protect Victor, and we'll still get the Surveil 2. We know exactly what's on top, and then attack with Victor, attack with Catilda. This can't attack, obviously, because it's just giving this turn, but Catilda's a 1, 2, 3, 4/4 right now with lifelink, and then Victor, still big on the ground, so great attacks. Moving to the next turn. Now I think we put the Feather of Flight on that Michiko, which gives us his spirit. We'll Surveil 2 before the draw, right? Because it's on... this is on cast, this is on enter, and this is on enter. So we'll do the Surveil 2 before the draw, and we'll take that Plains so we could play it this turn. So we have 4 mana now. But the Feather of Flight will come in and draw us that Plains. I kind of like the Shelter on Victor here to give it the protection. It can exile a permanent when it comes in, so that's pretty good. And just lifelink and ward 2. So now we're getting a ton of life right off that Ethereal Armor. Another spirit there off of Hollow Haunting. And then if there's anything relevant in the graveyard we want to get back, we could animate Dead here to get something back. But I think I kind of like just leaving All Seed up, taking a couple big attacks, each of them buff pretty high, right? This is just a big guy in the air. Catilda's a big guy in the air now with lifelink. And then Victor's now a big guy with lifelink and First Strike, right? Great attacks. And all we're waiting really on is mass removal. If somebody doesn't have it, next turn we're just going to continue to screw the nails in even tighter, as these spirits are just going to keep getting bigger, right? We've got 3 spirits at the moment, and it's just going to get bigger once we start playing Ghostly Dancers. So I think this next turn, again, if somebody has something great to get back with the Animate Dead, I think I would. But otherwise, I think playing the enchantment here is more important than anything else, because we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 enchantments now, and we Surveil 2. And remember that with Hallowed Haunting, once we have 7 more enchantments, everything is flying. So now everything's in the air, and we can just start hitting our opponents. We still keep the All Seed up for protection, but I mean, now everything's in the air, even though most of it, these were in the air. Now Victor's in the air. These are all in the air, and now we have big attacking threats for our opponents. Let me know. What do you think of Victor down in the comment section below? It's an interesting deck. I think the bones are there. It's just going to be about finding some more of those sub-synergies and making them the way you want it. And I think that's what you want from a commander deck. But I'd love to know what you think of Victor down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys next time.